The prairie lay open and endless beneath a pale American sky, the kind that made a man feel small no matter how many years he had survived upon it. Dry grass bent low as the wind rolled across the land, carrying dust, heat, and memories older than any fence. Elias Boone rode alone, as he often did, his horse moving slow and steady beneath him. Life had taught him patience, through failed harvests, buried friends, and a war he never spoke about. Out here, silence was company and distance was mercy. He had come to check the far boundary of his ranch, where the land dipped toward a forgotten stretch of river. Strange signs had drawn him there, deep footprints where no man or beast should walk, broken branches high above reach, and fire scars that told no ordinary story. Folks in town whispered about giants and curses, but Elias believed only in what the land showed him, and the land was restless. As he crested a low rise, his horse snorted and stopped short. Elias slid down, hand resting near his rifle, eyes scanning the open field. That was when he saw her. She lay bound between two rough posts driven into the earth, her massive frame tense with pain. She was unlike anyone he had ever seen, taller than any man he knew, her strength evident even in stillness. Her dark hair was braided tight, her skin marked by dust and dried blood, yet it was her eyes that held him, sharp, ancient, and burning with a quiet fury. This was no monster. This was a person, wounded, restrained, and humiliated. Elias took a step forward. The girl stirred, breath-catching. Her voice came low but clear, carrying a warning more than a plea. "Don't, it still hurts there." The words struck him harder than any threat. He stopped instantly, hands open, rifle forgotten. He had seen pain before, on battlefields, in dying towns, but this was different. This pain had been held too long. "I won't hurt you," he said, his voice rough from disuse. "I swear it." She studied him carefully, as if weighing his soul rather than his words. Somewhere behind them, Elias' horse shifted nervously. Far away, a hawk circled, silent witness to whatever choice would be made next. Elias knelt slowly, noticing the crude ropes biting into her wrists and ankles. Whoever had done this hadn't cared if she lived. Anger flared in his chest, sharp and unwelcome. He had avoided trouble his whole life, but trouble had a way of finding those who tried to live clean. "My name's Elias," he said. "I'm a rancher, I work this land." Her lips pressed together before she answered. "Naya," she said, "this land remembers me." The wind rose again, tugging at her torn dress and rattling the posts. Elias felt the weight of history settle around them, the kind no man could outride. He didn't yet know that this moment would change everything: his ranch, his future, and the way the West itself would judge him. All he knew was this: if he turned away now, the land would never forgive him. Elias waited a long moment before moving again, letting the wind carry his promise across the open plain. Naya's eyes never left him. Trust, he knew, was not given, it was measured, breath by breath. Slowly, he reached for the knife at his belt, turning the handle toward her before touching the rope. She tensed, muscles tightening like coiled wire. "Easy," he said quietly. "I'll cut the rope, nothing else." The blade slid through the coarse fiber and the tension eased from her wrists. She gasped softly, not in relief but in pain, as blood returned to limbs held too long. Elias backed away at once, giving her space. He remembered medics on muddy fields, how even kindness could hurt if rushed. He tore strips from his spare shirt, soaked them with water from his canteen, and rolled them gently toward her. "Wrap where it burns," he said, slow. Naya freed herself carefully, every movement deliberate. When she stood, Elias truly understood her size. She rose taller than the posts that had held her. Yet she did not loom, she swayed. Elias stepped forward without thinking and steadied her elbow. She did not pull away. "Who did this?" he asked, anger simmering beneath his calm. "Men who hunt stories," Naya replied. "They feared what they could not name." Elias swallowed. He had seen such men before, fortune seekers who turned rumors into cruelty. He scanned the horizon, uneasy. They might come back. "They will," she said. "Pain teaches persistence." They moved to the shade of a lone cottonwood by the river bend. Elias built a small fire, more for comfort than heat, and brewed weak coffee. Naya watched every step, memorizing his habits. When he offered the cup, she accepted after a pause, tasting as if it were a treaty. "You speak careful," she said, "not like the others." "My mother taught me," Elias answered. "Said words can start wars or stop them." Naya nodded. "My people say the land listens first." As dusk crept in, she told him pieces of her story. Giants, she said, were born when the land was threatened, guardians bound to rivers and valleys. Over time, fear turned neighbors into enemies. Traps replaced treaties. Pain replaced names. Elias listened, shame settling in his bones. He had worked this land for years, yet knew so little of its past. "I can take you somewhere safe," he offered. "A canyon, water, no roads." Naya considered him, eyes reflecting the fire. "Safety is not forever," she said, "but healing must begin somewhere." They traveled at night, moving slow. Elias led, checking shadows, while Naya followed with quiet strength. When they reached the canyon, moonlight revealed clear water and stone walls scarred by time. Elias set up a shelter, careful not to crowd her. He slept lightly, rifle close, listening for riders. Before dawn, Naya spoke softly. "You could have walked away." Elias stared at the stars fading into morning. "I've done that before," he said. "Didn't sit right." She closed her eyes, pain still present but shared now. Outside the canyon, the west waited, restless, watching. Inside, something fragile and stubborn began to grow. Not peace yet, but the courage to face what came next together. Morning arrived quietly in the canyon, light spilling over the stone walls like cautious hope. Elias woke to the sound of water moving over rock and the steady rhythm of breathing behind him. Naya sat near the stream, knees drawn close, washing dried blood from her hands. The pain had not left her. He could see it in the stiffness of her shoulders, but there was strength returning too, slow and determined. Elias brewed coffee again, the smell drifting through the cool air. He offered her a cup and a piece of hard bread. She accepted both, studying the simple meal as if it carried meaning beyond hunger. "Your food is humble," she said, "but honest." Elias smiled faintly. "It keeps a man alive. Sometimes that's enough." As the sun climbed higher, Naya spoke more freely. She told him of the old trails hidden beneath grass, of stones placed long before maps existed. "This canyon," she said, "was once a meeting place, a place where wounds were tended and words were weighed carefully." Elias felt a strange humility, realizing he had nearly fenced off a place that carried so much memory. Their peace did not last. By midday, the wind shifted, carrying sounds that did not belong to the canyon, voices, metal, the distant creak of saddles. Elias stiffened. He climbed partway up the canyon wall and peered out. In the open plain beyond, 3 riders moved slowly, scanning the land. Bounty men. The kind who followed rumors like blood trails. "They're looking," Elias whispered when he returned. Naya's jaw tightened. "They smell pain." Elias checked his rifle, heart thudding. He had faced men like this before, men who believed strength was proven by taking. "We can hide," he said. "Wait them out." Naya shook her head. "They will return again and again." The truth of it settled heavy between them. Elias thought of his ranch, the quiet life he had fought to protect by staying small and unnoticed. Helping Naya meant stepping into a story bigger than himself, one with consequences written in lead. The riders drew closer, one dismounted, examining the ground. Elias recognized the posture, a man confident in cruelty. He felt anger rise, but beneath it was something steadier, resolve. "I'll talk to them," Elias said. Naya studied him, eyes dark. "Words may fail." "Then I'll stand," he replied. "That counts for something." They moved together toward the canyon mouth. When the riders spotted them, surprise flashed across their faces, then greed. One laughed. "Well, I'll be damned," the leader said. "Told you the giant was real." Elias stepped forward, placing himself slightly in front of Naya. "You're trespassing," he said evenly. "This land under protection." "By who?" another rider sneered. "You." Before Elias could answer, Naya straightened to her full height. The wind seemed to pause. Her voice, when she spoke, was calm but carried far. "By the land," she said. The laughter died. Fear crept in where mockery had been. Elias raised his rifle, not to fire but to draw a line. For a long, trembling moment, no one moved. Then the leader spat in the dirt. "This ain't worth it," he muttered. The riders backed away, retreating into the open plains. Elias didn't breathe until they were gone. When silence returned, Naya looked down at him. "You chose." Elias lowered the rifle, hands shaking. "Yeah," he said quietly, "guess I did." Above them, the canyon walls held their secret, and the west took note of a man who finally stopped walking away. The silence after the riders left felt heavier than the threat itself. Elias stood at the canyon's edge, watching dust fade into the horizon, his pulse still loud in his ears. He lowered the rifle slowly, as if the land itself needed reassurance that violence would not follow. Naya exhaled, a long breath she seemed to have been holding for years. "They will tell others," she said. "Fear travels faster than truth." Elias nodded. He knew the pattern well. Rumors grew teeth out here. "Then we don't wait," he replied. "We prepare." They returned deeper into the canyon, where the walls narrowed and the stream curved out of sight. Elias gathered stones and fallen branches, building simple barriers that would break sightlines without scarring the land. Naya watched, then joined him, moving rock with careful strength. When she lifted a slab twice his size, Elias stared despite himself. She noticed and gave a faint, tired smile. "Strength is not always for fighting," she said. "Sometimes it is for holding." As afternoon waned, Naya's pain returned in sharp waves. Elias insisted she rest, spreading blankets in the shade. He cleaned her wounds again, gentler now, learning where not to touch. Each time she winced, he stopped. Each time she nodded, he continued. The work became a quiet language between them. "Why stay?" Naya asked suddenly. "You owe me nothing." Elias sat back on his heels. "I owe the land," he said, "and maybe myself, been running from hard choices too long." She considered this, eyes tracing the canyon walls. "Pain does not vanish," she said. "It changes shape." "I can live with that," Elias replied. As dusk approached, thunderheads gathered far off, bruising the sky. Naya stood and faced the wind, her posture changing, grounded, deliberate. She placed her palm against the stone, whispering words Elias did not understand. The air cooled. The canyon seemed to listen. "What are you doing?" he asked softly. "Calling balance," she answered. "Not storms, not safety, balance." Rain began lightly, then steadied, washing dust from leaves and skin. The sound filled the canyon, a promise and a warning both. Elias felt something loosen in his chest, a knot he hadn't known he carried. When night fell, they shared a small meal. Elias spoke of his ranch, how he'd lost family to sickness, how the land became both burden and refuge. Naya listened without interruption. When he finished, she placed a hand over her heart. "Grief lives here too," she said, "but it does not rule you." Later, as Elias took first watch, he heard movement beyond the canyon. Not riders, something lighter. Deer passed, unafraid. An owl called. The land, for now, approved. Before sleep claimed him, Elias realized the truth he'd been circling all day. Protecting Naya meant changing his life. Fences would come down. Neighbors would ask questions. Trouble would return. But for the first time in years, the choice felt right. At dawn, he would ride to town, not to hide, but to speak. The West was changing, one hard decision at a time, and Elias Boone was finally part of it. Dawn broke clean and bright after the night's rain, sunlight catching on wet stone and turning the canyon into a ribbon of gold. Elias saddled his horse quietly, careful not to wake Naya too soon. When she did rise, moving slowly but steadier than before, her eyes followed him with calm awareness. "You are going," she said, not as a question. "Yes," Elias replied. Town, if trouble's coming, better I hear it first. Naya nodded. Words can protect as much as strength. The ride to town felt longer than usual. Elias noticed every track, every fence line, as if seeing his land anew. When he arrived, conversation slowed. News traveled fast out west, and the sight of a rancher asking careful questions drew attention. Elias spoke to the storekeeper, the blacksmith, even the sheriff. He didn't share everything, only that bounty men were stirring trouble and that sacred land was being threatened. The sheriff frowned. Giants and ghosts don't hold up in court, he said. Maybe not, Elias answered evenly, but blood does. That seemed to land. By midday, Elias rode back with supplies, medicine, cloth, seed, grain. No posse followed him, but no promises either. The balance was fragile. Back in the canyon, Naya was tending the stream, stacking stones to guide the water. She looked stronger, though pain still shadowed her movements. They listened, she asked. Enough to hesitate, Elias said. That might be all we get. They spent the day working side by side. Elias cleared a small patch of land near the water, planting seeds where the soil was richest. Naya showed him how to place stones so roots would find shade. The work was slow, deliberate, and deeply human. As the sun lowered, Naya paused, pressing a hand to her side. Elias moved to help, but she raised a finger. I must stand through it, she said. If I sit, it will claim me. They stood together silent until the pain passed. Elias felt helpless but present. For once, that felt like enough. That evening, Naya spoke of her past more fully, of being captured, bound, displayed as proof of legend. Elias clenched his fists, rage simmering. I'm sorry, he said, the words feeling small. She met his gaze. Sorrow does not heal, she said gently. Witness does. Night fell with a soft breeze. Elias lit a fire, careful to keep it low. He thought about fences again, how they kept cattle in but also kept people out. Tomorrow, he decided, he would begin taking some down. Before sleep, Naya looked toward the open sky. I will not always remain, she said. My path is longer than this canyon. Elias nodded, though the thought tightened his chest. Long as you need, he said. This place is yours. She smiled then, a real one. No, she said, it is ours for now. The stars emerged, bright and countless. The land rested, the seeds waited, and two wounded souls found quiet purpose in shared ground. The West did not heal all at once, but here in this hidden place it had begun. The days that followed settled into a careful rhythm. Morning brought cool air and slow movement. Afternoons carried heat and watchfulness. Nights held quiet conversations and unspoken fears. Naya's strength returned in pieces, never all at once. Some mornings she walked the canyon with steady steps, guiding Elias to places where the stone rang hollow or the earth breathed cool. Other mornings the pain forced her to sit, jaw clenched, eyes closed until the wave passed. Elias learned not to rush her. He learned that healing was not a straight trail. One afternoon, dust rose on the horizon again, but this time it was a single rider. Elias watched from the ridge, rifle slung but not raised. The man wore a clean coat and carried papers, not weapons. A land agent, Elias muttered. The rider dismounted near the canyon mouth, calling out politely. Elias walked down to meet him, Naya standing visible behind, tall and unmoving. The agent's eyes widened, then narrowed with calculation. I'm here on official business, the man said, clearing his throat. This land is scheduled for purchase and development. You're sitting on valuable ground. Elias crossed his arms. This land's not for sale. The agent smiled thinly. Everything is eventually. Naya stepped forward. The air seemed to tighten. This ground remembers blood, she said. Yours will not improve it. The agent swallowed, then recovered. You're making this difficult, he said to Elias. Men with rifles are less patient than men with papers. Elias met his gaze. Then tell them to stay away. The agent mounted his horse, anger flashing beneath his calm. You've been warned. When he was gone, the canyon felt smaller. Elias exhaled slowly. That's the kind of trouble that doesn't scare easy. Naya nodded. Pain with authority believes it is right. That night they spoke long by the fire. Elias admitted his fear, not of dying, but of failing. I won't win a war, he said. I'm just one man. Naya stared into the flames. Wars are not won by strength alone, she said. They are endured by memory. She told him then what she had not before, that giants like her were bound to the land but not forever. When the balance shifted too far, they faded, leaving stories behind. I may not be here when this ends, she said. Elias felt the weight of that truth settle deep. Then I'll remember, he said, and I'll tell it right. Before dawn, Naya stood at the stream again, whispering to stone and water. Clouds gathered by midday, heavy and low. When thunder broke, it was sudden and fierce. Rain poured hard, swelling the stream, turning trails to mud. From the ridge, Elias watched as distant riders turned back, beaten by the land itself. He understood then, this was not escape but resistance. When the storm passed, Naya looked exhausted but calm. The pain remains, she said, but it has purpose. Elias placed a hand over his heart. So do we. Beyond the canyon, the world would keep pushing. But here, lines had been drawn, not in ink or blood, but in choice. The storm changed everything. By morning, the canyon no longer felt hidden. It felt chosen. Mud coated the lower trails, and fallen branches blocked the narrow paths that once led easily inside. Elias walked the perimeter, boots sinking into wet earth, reading the signs the way he had learned to read cattle tracks. No fresh riders, no voices. For now, the land itself stood guard. Naya rested near the stream, visibly drained. The storm had cost her. Elias could see it in the way her hands trembled slightly, in the deeper shadows beneath her eyes. You shouldn't have pushed so hard, he said quietly. She opened her eyes. If I did not, they would return with certainty. Elias sat beside her, staring at the water rushing past. They still might. Yes, she agreed, but not today. By noon, distant movement caught Elias' eye, not men with guns, but families. Wagons, livestock. Neighbors forced off their claims by threats and papers they could not fight. Elias understood instantly. He rode out to meet them, guiding them along safer ground, bringing them to the wide meadow above the canyon where grass still stood tall. By evening, half a dozen families had gathered, tired, wary, but alive. Elias shared what little he had. No speeches, just action. When the people saw Naya, fear flickered, but it did not take hold. She did not loom. She did not threaten. She stood still, grounded, and met their eyes. She's protecting the water, Elias said simply, like we should have been all along. That night, no fires were lit. The group rested quietly beneath the stars. Stories were exchanged, not legends but truths, about land taken unfairly, about children buried too young, about choosing to stand when running was easier. Naya listened, the land listened. At dawn, scouts returned with news. The armed men had turned back again. Flooded trails, broken wagons, no appetite for mystery or resistance that didn't bleed. Relief spread through the camp, but it was cautious. Elias knew better than to call it victory. Later that day, Naya asked Elias to walk with her to the highest point above the canyon. The climb was slow. Each step cost her, but she did not stop. I will not stay much longer, she said when they reached the top. Elias felt the words like a wound reopening. Is that the pain talking? No, she said gently. The balance is shifting back. That is my work. Below them, the land stretched wide and open, scarred but breathing. What happens to me? Elias asked. You become a keeper, she replied, not of land but of choice. She placed her hand against the earth one final time. The wind rose, strong and steady, carrying the scent of rain and grass. For a moment the air shimmered, then settled. When Elias turned back, she was gone. No flash, no thunder, just absence. He stood there a long time, grief and gratitude tangled tight. Below, the people waited, not for answers but for leadership. Elias descended the ridge and joined them. "We rebuild," he said, "together." And for the first time the West answered, not with gunfire but with silence that felt like agreement. Years passed, not loudly but steadily, like grass reclaiming a scar. The canyon remained, unchanged to the careless eye, yet deeply altered for those who knew where to look. Fences no longer cut across it. The water ran free. Paths were shaped by feet, not wheels. Elias Boone grew older there. His hair turned the color of dusted snow, his hands rougher but surer. He never claimed the land as an owner again. When asked, he would say, "I tend it, that's all." People came to him for advice, not authority. He helped settle disputes, guided lost travelers, and taught children how to read weather in the sky and truth in silence. The families who had taken refuge scattered over time, some returning to rebuilt homes, others settling nearby. None spoke of the canyon lightly. They treated it like a church without walls. And Naya, she became story. Some said they saw her at dawn, standing at the ridge when floods threatened. Others claimed she walked beside lost children, guiding them home. Elias never confirmed nor denied these tales. He only smiled, the kind of smile that carried both loss and peace. The pain she had spoken of never truly left him either. It lived in memory, in the ache of knowing some things were borrowed, not kept. But purpose had replaced fear. That made the pain bearable. One autumn evening, Elias sat alone by the stream where he had first brewed coffee for her. His breath was shorter now. The land was quiet, as if waiting. "I remembered," he said softly, unsure who might hear, "just like I promised." The wind moved gently through the canyon, brushing his face like a familiar hand. When Elias passed, it was without struggle. Neighbors found him resting against a cottonwood, eyes closed, expression calm. They buried him on the rise overlooking the water, marking the place with a single stone. No name, no dates. The land knew. Years later still, the West changed again. Roads crept closer, towns grew louder, but the canyon remained untouched. Papers failed there, machines broke. People felt watched not with threat but with warning. And when the wind crossed the plains, it carried a truth that refused to fade. The frontier was never tamed by guns or greed. It was shaped by those who chose mercy when no one was watching, by those who listened when the land spoke. Some nights travelers swear they hear two voices in the canyon, one deep and steady, the other ancient and strong, speaking not of pain but of balance. And the land at last rests,